Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Super English Talks. My name is Jara, and I am so happy, so excited, and truly grateful to be here with you today. In this episode, we're going to talk about something very close to your English learning journey. It is something that is at the very heart of learning a language, and that is finding your own voice in English. Now, when we learn a new language, especially English, we often think we need to focus on difficult things. Maybe we try to learn very big and complicated words. Or maybe we study complex grammar rules. Sometimes we even read long vocabulary lists about science, business, or politics. Of course, all of this is important because it helps you build a strong base in English. But here's the problem. We sometimes forget the most important thing. And what is that? It is the ability to simply talk about our daily life. I know it sounds very simple, maybe even too simple. But think about your own conversations. What do you usually talk about with your friends, your family, or even your colleagues? Most of the time, you don't talk about politics, history, or science, right? Instead, you talk about your day. You might tell someone what you did in the morning, what you plan to do later, or even what you ate for lunch. These small, everyday topics are actually the biggest part of real conversation. They are the moments that make up our lives. And when you can talk about them in English, that is when your English starts to feel alive. Let me share a little story with you. When I was learning another language, I studied very hard. I memorized vocabulary. I read textbooks. I could explain historical events and even talk about scientific theories. But when someone asked me a simple question like, "So, what did you do after work yesterday?" I didn't know what to say. It was strange. I knew the words for cook, dinner, watch TV, or sleep, but I didn't know how to put them together in a natural way. My mind went blank. It felt like I had a big dictionary in my head, but I didn't know how to use the words to make real, living sentences. And then I realized something very important. If I couldn't talk about my daily life, I couldn't truly connect with people. Because language is not only about passing tests or reading the news. Language is about connection. It is about relationships. It is about laughing with others, sharing your thoughts, and letting people see who you are. And the best way to do that is through everyday conversations. So today, in this episode, we are going to take a little journey through your whole day. From the moment your alarm clock rings in the morning to the time you go to sleep at night. We'll talk about all the little things, your morning routine, your commute, your work or study, your evening activities, and even your weekends. Along the way, I will give you useful words and phrases. I'll also show you how to ask questions to keep a conversation going. And most importantly, I'll share some real-life examples so you can see how natural and powerful these simple conversations can be. This episode will be very useful for you if you are around the B1 level in English. You will practice listening to natural speech, and at the same time, you will learn the language you need to use every single day. So, my message to you is this. Every single moment of your day is a chance to practice English. Whether you are brushing your teeth, riding the bus, or having dinner, you can practice thinking and speaking in English. By the end of this episode, I hope you will feel more confident and ready to talk about your own daily life. So, make yourself comfortable. Maybe grab a cup of tea or coffee, and let's begin this journey together. Let's start with the very first part of the day, the morning. For most of us, the morning sets the tone for everything that happens afterward. That is why learning how to describe your morning routine in English is such an important step. It may sound very simple, but learning how to talk about your morning routine is actually a powerful way to grow your English confidence. Think about it for a moment. How do you usually wake up? Some people wake up naturally when the sun comes in through the window. Others, like me, depend completely on an alarm clock. You might say, my alarm usually goes off at 6 a.m., but I sometimes hit the snooze button 2 or 3 times before I actually get up. Or maybe you are one of those lucky people who jumps out of bed immediately as soon as you open your eyes. Once you are awake and out of bed, what is the very first thing you do? Some people like to stretch their arms and legs to wake up their body. Others immediately grab their phone and check their messages or the morning news. Some people make their bed straight away. Others prefer to leave it until later. These are such small actions, but the way we describe them in English can make a big difference. And of course, they are also wonderful conversation starters. Now, let's talk about breakfast, which people often call the most important meal of the day. Do you usually have breakfast at home? Or do you grab something quick like a coffee and a pastry on your way to work? Here are a few simple examples you could say. I usually make myself some toast and have a cup of tea for breakfast. I'm not much of a breakfast person, so I just grab a banana on the go. I like cooking in the morning, so I often make scrambled eggs. Even something small like saying whether you prefer coffee or tea, or whether you enjoy a sweet breakfast or a savory one, can open up a friendly conversation. After breakfast, most of us start getting ready for the day. This usually means heading into the bathroom. You might say something like, first, I take a shower to wake myself up properly. I prefer taking a bath in the evening, so in the morning I just wash my face. Then, of course, you brush your teeth. Maybe you comb or style your hair. Some people spend a lot of time doing their hair in a special way, while others just keep it simple. Next comes choosing clothes. Some people prepare their outfit the night before so they don't have to think about it in the morning. Others just grab something comfortable and get going. As you can see, these are very basic things, but when you describe them in English, you can share a lot about your habits and your personality. Let me give you a little story. I once met a cheerful woman from Japan named Akari. She was studying English in London, but she hated mornings. She used to say that getting out of bed felt like fighting a battle every single day. She always hit the snooze button at least 3 times. She even joked, "My alarm clock is my worst enemy." When Akari first joined her English classes, she found it really difficult to talk about her mornings. She said, "Why should I describe them? I just want to forget them." But then her teacher gave her a fun idea. Make English part of her morning routine. So here's what Akari did. She chose a silly, happy English pop song that made her smile. Every morning, as soon as her alarm rang, she played that song instead of hitting snooze. And while the music was playing, she practiced describing her actions in English, even if she was just talking to herself. So her alarm would ring, and she would groan, "Ugh, it's so early." Then she'd put on her favorite song and say, "Okay, Akari, time to get up." When her feet touched the cold floor, she would mumble, "BRR, my feet are cold." As she stretched, she would say, "I'm stretching my arms and legs." It was simple, but it worked. Over time, these small daily practices helped her speak English more naturally. She wasn't just memorizing words, she was living them. Akari's story showed us how even something you don't enjoy, like mornings, can become a fun chance to practice English. And Marco's story taught us something else that is very important. You don't need perfect grammar or long sentences to make a connection. Sometimes, just one simple comment, like, "I like your shirt," or "It's cold today," is enough to start a real conversation. And those small conversations, repeated day after day, slowly build your confidence. So, after you've woken up, eaten breakfast, and gotten ready, what usually comes next? For many people, the next big part of the day is commuting, the time you spend traveling from one place to another. Maybe you're heading to work. Maybe you're going to school or university. Or maybe you're just running some errands, like going shopping or visiting the bank. No matter where you go, this part of the day is full of opportunities to practice English, even with very short and simple sentences. Let's think about it together. How do you usually travel? Do you take the bus? You might say, I take the bus to work every morning. Or, the bus stop is right outside my apartment. Do you ride the train? You could say, I usually catch the 8:15 train into the city. Or, sometimes the train is late and I get frustrated. Do you drive a car? Then you might say, I drive to work and it usually takes me about 20 minutes. Or, the traffic is terrible on Mondays. Or maybe you cycle or walk. You could say, I like walking to school because it gives me time to clear my head. Or, I ride my bike every day and it helps me stay fit. Even these small sentences tell people something about your daily life. And they give you a perfect chance to practice those little everyday words and expressions that you will use again and again. Let me share another story here. This one is about a man named Luis from Mexico. Luis moved to Canada to improve his English, and every morning he took the subway to his English school. At first, he hated the commute. The train was crowded, people didn't talk to each other, and he felt lonely. But then one day, he decided to change the way he saw it. Instead of just standing quietly, he started paying attention to little details around him. For example, when the announcement came over the speaker, he would try to repeat it quietly to himself. Next station, Blur-Young. Or when the train doors opened, he'd whisper, The doors are opening. Please mind the gap. At first, he felt a little silly, but slowly, it became a game. He was practicing real-life English without even needing a partner. After a few weeks, Luis grew more confident. One morning, a woman next to him dropped her scarf. Without thinking too much, he picked it up and said, Excuse me, you dropped this. She smiled and thanked him. That tiny moment of kindness made Luis realize something. Commuting is not just about moving from one place to another. It's also full of little opportunities to use English in natural human ways. So, whether you're taking the bus, the train, your car, or your bike, try to see your commute as a chance to practice. You can describe what's happening around you, notice what people are wearing, or even make a small comment like, The bus is really full today, or it's a beautiful morning. These small steps will make a big difference over time. When we talk about commuting, or simply the way we travel from one place to another, there are many useful words and phrases we can use. Each type of transport, bus, train, car, walking, or cycling, has its own little vocabulary. For example, if you travel by car, you might talk about traffic. Is the traffic heavy, with too many cars on the road? Or is it a smooth ride with no problems at all? Maybe you often get stuck in a traffic jam, which can be very frustrating. You could say something like, My commute is usually pretty long. I drive to work and the traffic is always bad in the morning. If you take public transport, you might say, I take the subway every day and it's always packed during rush hour. Or if you're lucky, maybe your situation is much easier. I live only a short walk from my office, so I don't have to deal with traffic at all. Of course, things don't always go smoothly. Sometimes there are delays on buses or trains. Maybe your car breaks down. Even though these moments feel annoying at the time, they often make for funny or interesting stories later. Now, let's think about what people usually do during their commute. This is a wonderful way to add more detail when you talk about your day. Some people listen to music. Others put on a podcast, maybe even the Super English Talks, I hope. Some read a book or an ebook. Many people just scroll through social media on their phones. And some simply look out the window and watch the world go by. All of these little details make your description of daily life much more colorful. For example, you might say, I usually catch up on my emails while I'm on the bus. I love listening to audiobooks during my drive to work. I just sit quietly and look at the city while the train takes me to school. These are very simple sentences, but they show a lot about you, your habits, and your personality. And they give you so many chances to practice real English. Let me tell you a story about Leo, a student from Brazil who moved to Dublin, Ireland. Leo was a friendly and kind person, but he found it very hard to start conversations with strangers. Every morning, he took the bus to university. At the bus stop, he often saw the same people waiting, but he never knew what to say. His English was good, but starting that very first sentence felt like climbing a mountain. One cold, rainy morning, something happened. Just as the bus was about to arrive, the rain started pouring down. Everyone rushed to squeeze under the small bus shelter to stay dry. Leo noticed an older lady next to him who was struggling to open her umbrella. Without thinking too much, he smiled and said, "Oh, it's really pouring down, isn't it? Here, let me help you." He helped her open her umbrella, and she gave him a warm smile. She said, "Oh, thank you, dear." It really came out of nowhere, didn't it? That tiny act of kindness broke the ice. From that day on, Leo and the lady, her name was Mrs. O'Malley, would chat a little bit every morning at the bus stop. At first, it was very simple. Just comments about the weather. Lovely day today, isn't it? Looks like it might clear up later. Later, they started talking about the bus itself. The bus is running late today, I think. Ah, typical, isn't it? Sometimes Mrs. O'Malley even brought a little packet of biscuits and offered one to Leo. Over time, these tiny, consistent conversations built up his confidence in a very natural way. Leo learned two very important things. First, he learned how to listen carefully to Mrs. O'Malley's Irish accent and respond without overthinking. Second, he discovered that real English learning doesn't always come from books. Sometimes it comes from very small, human moments, like sharing an umbrella or talking about the weather. In the end, Leo didn't just improve his English. He also gained a new friend, and his commute became something he actually looked forward to. He realized that the best way to start talking is often the simplest. Notice something around you, be kind, or make a little comment. Small steps, repeated every day, can make a huge difference. Now, let's talk about one more travel story before we move into the next big part of the day. This is the story of Javier, a tourist from Spain who was backpacking through the United States. After a few weeks of travel, Javier was feeling pretty confident about his English. He could order food, ask for tickets, and chat a little with other travelers. But he hadn't really faced a true challenge yet. One afternoon, Javier was driving a rental car through the quiet countryside. He was depending on his phone's GPS to guide him. Suddenly, his phone battery died. No charger, no paper map, and no idea where he was. He drove for another 15 minutes, feeling more and more nervous. His stomach was tight with worry. He hadn't seen another car in a long time, and the road signs were rare and confusing. Finally, he spotted a small gas station. He parked, took a deep breath, and walked inside. Behind the counter stood a friendly-looking man. Javier said, "Excuse me, my phone is dead and I am lost. Can you help me find the way to Springfield?" The man smiled. "Springfield, huh? There are quite a few of those. Which Springfield are you trying to get to?" Javier suddenly realized his mistake. He hadn't said which one. His face turned red with embarrassment. He tried again. Oh, the one near the big university. Ah, the man nodded. You mean Springfield, Illinois. No problem. You're actually quite far off course. Here's what you need to do. Head back the way you came for about 5 miles, then take a left at the old mill. After that, follow the road for about 10 miles until you reach a highway. From there, just follow the signs. You can't miss it. Javier listened very carefully, trying to remember every step. He quickly pulled out a pen and paper. Can you say that again, please? Slowly, he asked. The man repeated the directions patiently and even drew a small map. Javier thanked him many times, feeling a mix of relief and embarrassment. As he drove away, he repeated the directions out loud in English. Head back 5 miles, left at the old mill, 10 miles, hit the highway. Even though the situation was stressful, Javier learned a lot that day. He picked up new phrases like head back, take a left, follow the road, and hit the highway. More importantly, he gained confidence in asking for help, asking people to repeat slowly, and admitting when he didn't understand. He discovered that even when you feel lost, using English can guide you back on track, and that most people are happy to help if you just ask. It was a real test of his English, but he came out stronger. Sometimes, the moments that scare us the most are the ones that teach us the most. Now, let's move beyond commuting and travel and step into the very center of many people's days: work and study life. This is where most of us spend a big part of our waking hours. And being able to describe your work or study routine in English is essential, not only for professional or academic success, but also for feeling comfortable and included in conversations. Think about your own day. What are the first tasks you usually do? Do you start by checking your emails? Do you have lots of meetings? Maybe spend time writing reports, making phone calls, or working on long projects. If you're a student, do you take notes in class, do homework, or prepare for exams? You could describe your main responsibilities in simple sentences like, I start my day by checking emails and replying to urgent messages. I usually have 2 or 3 meetings in the morning. I spend most of my time working on design projects. I'm a student, so I go to lectures and then review my notes in the evening. These little details help you share your life in English, and they also prepare you for real conversations at work, school, or even at a networking event. At work or at school, you usually have a list of things you do every day. For example, maybe you say, I handle customer inquiries, which means you answer customers' questions. Or you could say, I'm responsible for managing the team schedule, which means you make sure everyone knows their tasks and deadlines. If you're a student, your day might look a little different. You probably spend time going to lectures, taking notes, doing homework, or working on a research paper. Sometimes you have to prepare for exams or give presentations. These are all very common activities. Talking about them in English helps you describe your life more clearly and naturally. And of course, work or school is not just about tasks. It's also about people. You spend time with colleagues, classmates, professors, or managers. How do you talk about them in English? You might say, my team is really supportive. I often collaborate with my colleagues on different projects. I get along well with my professor. Even small, casual conversations are important. For example, small talk at the office coffee machine or chatting during a break between classes. Simple questions like, how's your day going? Or, did you have a busy morning? Can open the door to a friendly chat. These short conversations build confidence and help you feel connected. But of course, not every day is easy. Sometimes you face challenges. At work, you might have a heavy workload. At school, You might feel stressed about an exam or struggle with a difficult subject. It's useful to know how to talk about these feelings in English. You can say things like, I have so much work this week. I'm really stressed about my exam tomorrow. I'm finding this subject very difficult. On the other hand, it's also important to talk about achievements. Maybe you finished a big project, passed a test, or simply had a very productive day. You can practice sentences like, I finally completed my project. I passed my exam. Today was a really productive day. Sharing these small victories helps you feel proud, and it gives you more opportunities to use English in a positive way. And let's not forget one more important part of the work or study day, lunch breaks. This is often the time when people relax, chat, and recharge for the afternoon. You might describe your lunch in simple sentences like, I usually have a sandwich and a salad for lunch. I often go out to eat with my colleagues. Today I'm trying a new restaurant near the office. I bring my own packed lunch from home. Talking about lunch sounds simple, but it's actually a great way to start friendly conversations with people around you. Now, let me share a story about someone who faced a big challenge at work. Anna was a bright young marketing specialist from Ukraine. She had recently joined an international company in Berlin. Her written English was excellent. She could write reports and emails with no problem. But when it came to speaking in meetings, she really struggled. During meetings, Anna often had many ideas in her head. Her brain was full of thoughts and suggestions. But when her turn came to speak, she froze. Her heart started to beat fast, her palms got sweaty, and her voice became very quiet. Sometimes, the words simply disappeared. She sat there silently, feeling invisible, even though she had so much to share. Why was this happening? Anna was afraid of sounding silly. She worried about making grammar mistakes in front of her English-speaking colleagues and her very demanding boss. The fear made her stay quiet. But Anna knew she couldn't go on like this forever. She wanted her voice to be heard. She wanted to contribute to her team. One day, her manager announced a big brainstorming meeting for a new product launch. He asked everyone to come prepared with ideas. Anna felt nervous, but she also saw this as her moment. This was her chance to change things. So she made a decision. This time she would not just listen, she would speak. She sat down the evening before and carefully prepared. She chose 3 clear, simple ideas that she wanted to share. She wrote them down, practiced them out loud, and even repeated them in front of the mirror. Anna was still nervous, but she also felt determined. She was ready to face her fear. For each of her 3 ideas, Anna didn't just write down a few notes. She prepared carefully. She wrote short, clear sentences that she could actually use in the meeting. She didn't want to get lost in long, complicated words. She wanted to be direct and easy to understand. Then she practiced. She said the sentences again and again to herself, not only the words, but also the way she would say them, her rhythm, her tone, and her confidence. She practiced polite, professional phrases like, I think we should consider. My suggestion is to, from my perspective. She also knew that meetings move quickly, and sometimes people interrupt. So, she even practiced how she could politely join the conversation. She repeated phrases like, that's a great point, and I'd like to add, if I may just jump in for a second. She stood in front of the mirror and imagined herself in the meeting. She imagined her manager, her colleagues, and the big table. She pictured herself waiting for the right moment and then speaking clearly. When the day of the meeting came, Anna was still very nervous. Her hands were sweaty, her heart was beating fast. When her manager said, Okay, let's hear some ideas. She almost wanted to stay quiet. But she remembered her preparation. She reminded herself, I am ready. I have something important to say. She listened for a pause. She took a deep breath. Then, with a voice that trembled just a little, she said, If I may just jump in for a second, I think we should consider a social media campaign that focuses on user-generated content. The room went quiet for a moment. Her manager looked at her and nodded. That's an interesting idea, Anna. Could you explain more about that? Anna felt a rush of adrenaline. Her body was shaking, but her mind said, Go on. Keep going. She explained her idea step by step, using the sentences she had practiced. She wasn't perfect. She stumbled on a word or two, and her voice wavered. But she spoke. She was heard. By the end of the meeting, Anna had spoken 3 times. And even more exciting, one of her ideas was chosen for further work. That moment changed something inside her. She realized that preparation, even just a few key phrases, could give her the courage to speak up. She learned that her voice mattered, and that even a small contribution could make a big impact. For Anna, it was a huge win for her confidence. Now, let's look at another story, this time from the world of study. Carlos was a bright engineering student from Colombia. He had moved to Canada to do his master's degree. Reading textbooks wasn't a problem for him. Understanding his professors in lectures was fine too. But when it came to study groups, things got hard. His classmates came from many places, Canada, India, China, and they spoke very quickly when discussing complex engineering problems. The conversations were fast, and everyone seemed so confident. Carlos could follow what they were saying. He understood the main ideas. But when he tried to join in, it was too late. By the time he formed a question in his head or prepared his sentence, the group had already moved on. He often sat there silently, frustrated, thinking, I know the answer. I have a question. But it's already too late. One evening, after another study session where he said almost nothing, Carlos finally opened up to his Canadian classmate, Sarah. I feel so slow, he admitted. My brain is processing too slowly. I understand everything, but I can't jump in. Sarah was kind and patient. She smiled and said, I understand, but maybe you're trying to be too perfect. Don't wait to form the whole sentence in your head. Just focus on one small phrase or one short question. Even something simple like, can you clarify? Or what about? Or so, you mean? Just say that first. Once you're in the conversation, you can add more. Carlos thought about her advice. It sounded simple, but powerful. Maybe he didn't need to wait for the perfect sentence. Maybe just a few short words were enough to break in. Carlos started using Sarah's advice. At the next study group, he decided not to wait too long. When one of his classmates explained a difficult concept, Carlos quickly spoke up. He said, So, you mean we should consider the stress points here? Another time, he asked, Can you clarify the exact formula you used? These were short, simple questions, but they helped him join the conversation. At first, it wasn't perfect. Sometimes he still paused too long or hesitated. But the important thing was he was trying. To make it easier, Carlos also began preparing before each study session. He would think of 1 or 2 questions he could ask, even if he already knew the answers. For him, the goal wasn't just about learning the material. It was about practicing how to speak and take part in discussions. By saying something small at the start, he found it much easier to continue with a longer thought. Over the semester, Carlos grew more confident. Instead of sitting quietly and only listening, he became an active participant. He started asking thoughtful questions and sharing useful ideas. His classmates noticed and began including him more in their conversations. This experience taught Carlos something very important. You don't always need long, perfect sentences. Sometimes a few short words are enough to open the door. Step by step, he turned into a stronger and more valuable member of his study group. Just like Carlos, many people face moments of embarrassment or challenge in their work or studies. But these moments often teach the biggest lessons. Take the example of Leila, a young designer from France. She worked for an international fashion company and was usually very careful with her English, especially when writing emails. One very busy afternoon, Leila had to send a quick message to a client about a design change. She wanted to write, "Please review the attached mock-up." But in her hurry, she made a small but serious mistake. Instead of review, she typed revile. The word revile means to criticize harshly, which gave her email a completely wrong meaning. Please revile the attached mock-up. Without noticing, she pressed send. A few minutes later, she read the email again, and her heart dropped. Oh no! What have I done? She thought, feeling her face turn red. She immediately called her colleague Mark, who was a native English speaker. "Mark, I've made a terrible mistake," she said nervously. "I told the client to revile the design, not review it. What should I do?" Mark laughed kindly and told her, "Don't worry. It happens to everyone. Just send a follow-up email. Be honest and polite. Apologize and explain it was only a typo." Taking a deep breath, Leila quickly wrote a second message. "Dear Mr. Smith, my sincere apologies for the typo in my previous email. I meant to write, please review the attached mock-up for your feedback, not revile. Sorry for the confusion." She was still embarrassed as she sent it, but the client replied almost immediately with a friendly laugh. "No worries, Leila. Happens to the best of us. Thanks for clarifying. I'll review it now." That moment taught Leila an unforgettable lesson. In professional English, mistakes happen. What matters most is how you handle them, quickly, honestly, and politely. Her little typo became a funny story she could share later, and it also made her much less afraid of small slip-ups in the future. She even said that she would never confuse review and revile again, because she had learned the difference the hard way. As the work or study day comes to an end, many of us look forward to our free time. These hours in the evening are for relaxing, enjoying hobbies, or spending time with family and friends. Being able to talk about how we spend this time in English is also important. It helps us connect with others on a more personal level, beyond just work or study. After work or study, most of our casual, fun conversations happen. People love to talk about how they relax, what they watch, what they eat, and who they spend time with. These topics are easy, friendly, and perfect for everyday English. After you finish for the day, what do you usually do? After work, I usually hit the gym for an hour to burn off some steam. This means to release stress. I like to go for a walk to clear my head. I head straight home and relax. I chill out on the couch and watch some TV. These expressions are very common and make your English sound natural. Entertainment and hobbies. Talking about what you watch, read, or listen to is a great way to connect. I'm hooked on a new series right now. I'm binge-watching a fantasy show on Netflix. It's really captivating. I'm not much of a TV person. I prefer to read before bed. I'm into documentaries/comedies/thrillers. I love listening to music in the evening. My favorite artist right now is _. You can also ask Seen any good movies lately? Got any show recommendations? What kind of music are you into? Dinner time. Food is always an easy topic and delicious to talk about. I usually cook a simple meal for dinner, something quick like pasta or a stir-fry. I often eat out. There's a great Thai place near my apartment. I'm trying a new recipe tonight. Use flavor words to make your English more vivid. Spicy, salty, sweet, savory, tangy, bitter. I like mild flavors. / I prefer spicy food. Talk about company. I usually eat with my family / flatmates. Sometimes I eat alone and watch something short. We often have friends over for dinner on the weekend. Time with family and friends. We play board games on Fridays. We have a movie night every week. We chat over a cup of tea. After dinner, we go for a walk in the park. These small, everyday moments are where real, natural English happens. Bedtime routine. How do you wind down? I usually read for about an hour before I turn out the lights. Sometimes I listen to a relaxing podcast to help me fall asleep. I try not to scroll on my phone. I set my alarm and call it a night. All of these are simple, honest ways to describe the end of your day. Story. Jara learns to cook an English dish. Now, a little story. This Jara is not the podcast host. She's a different Jara, a lively student from Spain living in London. Jara loved cooking, but she usually made Spanish food. One evening, her flatmate, an English girl named Emma, suggested they try a classic English dish together, shepherd's pie. Emma found a recipe online. Jara was excited, but also a bit nervous. The recipe was all in English. As they started, Jara realized she didn't know many cooking verbs. "What does sauté mean?" she asked. Emma smiled. Sauté means cook quickly in a little oil or butter. And what's a knob of butter? It's just a small lump, not an exact amount. They laughed and kept going, step by step. So, I need to chop the onions, right? Jara asked, holding up a knife. Yes. Then mince the garlic. That means cut it very, very small, Emma said. They read the next lines of the recipe together and learned more kitchen words as they cooked. Mini cooking phrase bank with simple meanings. Preheat the oven. Turn it on early so it's hot when you need it. Grease the dish. Rub a little oil / butter so food doesn't stick. Chop / dice. Cut into pieces. Dice equals small cubes. Mince. Cut very, very small. Sauté. Cook quickly in a little oil or butter. Simmer. Cook gently with small bubbles, not a full boil. Bring to a boil. Heat until big bubbles appear. Stir. Move the food around with a spoon. Season to taste. Add salt / pepper until it tastes right to you. Mash. Crush until smooth, like mashed potatoes. Layer. Put one part on top of another, meat, then potatoes. Bake until golden. Cook in the oven until the top is lightly brown. Let it rest. Wait a few minutes before serving. Handy amounts you'll see in recipes. A pinch of salt, a tiny amount you can hold between your fingers. A dash of milk, a very small splash. A handful of cheese, the amount you can hold in one hand. A knob of butter, a small lump. To taste, as much as you like. Back in the kitchen, Emma said, preheat the oven to 200 degrees Celsius. Jara repeated the words out loud, practicing her English as she moved. Preheat the oven, grease the dish, simmer the sauce, season to taste. They sautéed the onions and carrots, minced the garlic, added the meat and tomato paste, and let it simmer. Then they mashed the potatoes with a knob of butter and a dash of milk. Finally, they layered the meat in a baking dish, spread the potatoes on top, and baked until golden. While they waited, Jara set a timer and read the recipe again, underlining the new words. She repeated them softly. Sauté, simmer, mash, layer. When the oven beeped, they pulled out a beautiful shepherd's pie. The top was golden. The kitchen smelled amazing. Jara took a bite and laughed. I didn't just learn a new recipe. I learned a lot of kitchen English too. That night taught her something big. Your hobbies, cooking, music, movies, are perfect times to practice real English. You learn words you actually use, you speak naturally, and you have fun while you learn. Quick practice prompts, use them tonight. After work, I usually __ to relax. I'm hooked on __ right now. For dinner, I made __. It was spicy / savory / sweet / tangy. We had friends over and _. Before bed, I read / listen to _her. Then I turn out the lights. Strengths. Relatable scenarios, cooking, TV shows, board games. Make the stories feel authentic. Mini language lessons woven in cooking verbs, laugh out loud, casual introductions, keep it educational but fun. Emotional variety, Jara's laughter, Kenji's quiet discovery, Lena's nervousness, helps learners connect. Suggestions for improvement. Tighten filler words. There are a few and repeats like I like, which you could keep if you want to show realistic spoken hesitation, but if this is for a polished script, trim them. Example, Emma replied, unless you want to emphasize natural speech. Highlight key phrases. Since these are teaching moments, you could repeat or emphasize the target expressions after the story. Example, after Kenji. See how he used laugh out loud naturally in conversation? That's a phrase you can use too. Smooth transitions between stories. Add a connecting line so it doesn't feel like a sudden jump from one character to the next. Example, cooking isn't the only way to learn through leisure. Let's look at how TV shows helped Kenji. And with a unifying reflection, tie all three together with a short reminder that everyday activities, cooking, watching TV, socializing, are all powerful ways to learn. Even a short answer is a start. That's what Lena realized. At the board game night, she began with a tiny answer about her favorite games. It wasn't much, but it opened the door. Slowly, the conversation moved on. People talked about other board games, favorite movies, and places they had traveled. Lena listened carefully. She picked up new words and phrases. When she felt a little confident, she added a short comment or asked a question. For example, when someone mentioned a game she didn't know, she could say, I'm not familiar with that one. She also learned small polite expressions like, oh, really? Or that's interesting. These phrases helped her show she was listening. By the end of the night, Lena had stayed for more than 3 hours. She had learned a new board game, had several small conversations, and even told a short, funny story about a travel experience. She felt tired, but very happy. She realized that just showing up, even when she was nervous, made it easier to speak English. Doing something together, like playing a game, helped the words flow naturally. This was a great lesson. Sometimes the best way to practice English is to join in and be open to conversation. Weekends, fun and conversation practice. Now, let's talk about weekends. Weekends are a perfect topic for conversation because they're about what we choose to do, how we relax, and what we enjoy. Talking about weekends is a big part of natural English. Planning your weekend. Do you like to plan your weekend ahead of time? Or are you spontaneous, deciding what to do as the day comes? You might say, I like to plan my weekends in advance. I prefer to play it by ear. This means you decide as you go. Sleeping habits. Do you sleep in to catch up on rest? Or are you an early riser, even on weekends?
Shopping.
Shopping is another common weekend activity. You could go to the supermarket for groceries, visit a local market to browse around, do window shopping at the mall. Useful phrases. Do you know where the dairy section is? How much does this cost? Can you help me find this? Sports and outdoor activities. Weekends are a great time to exercise or enjoy nature. You could play football, tennis, or another sport with friends. Go hiking, cycling, or for a long walk in the park. Have a picnic or stroll along the beach. You might say, I usually play football with my friends on Saturday mornings. My family and I love going for long walks in the countryside on Sundays. Spending time with friends and family. Weekends are also for socializing. You could visit relatives or friends, invite people over for a meal or board game night, go out for dinner or see a movie. Story: David's English Immersion Weekend. Let me tell you about David, a university student from Germany. David loved learning English, but he felt his speaking was always too formal. In class, it was like an exercise. He wanted to use English in a real, everyday way. One weekend, David decided to challenge himself. He called it an English Immersion Weekend. That meant he would speak only English for the whole weekend, no matter what. He knew it would be difficult, but he was determined. At first, it was strange. Simple things like ordering food, chatting with friends, or asking directions felt different. But after a few hours, he noticed something. English started to feel more natural. He could talk about his hobbies, explain what he was doing, and ask questions without worrying too much about mistakes. By the end of the weekend, David felt more confident. He learned that immersing yourself, even for a short time, is one of the best ways to improve English. And it was fun. He laughed, made small mistakes, corrected himself, and spoke with more freedom than he had in a classroom. Simple weekend phrases to practice. I usually sleep in on Saturday mornings. I like to go for a walk in the park. On Sundays, I visit my family. I usually plan my weekend in advance. I'm going to play football with friends this afternoon. I prefer to play it by ear on weekends. It all started simply on Saturday morning. David's flatmate from England asked, "What are your plans for the weekend?" David took a deep breath and said, "Well, I'm going to try to speak only English for the whole weekend. It's a bit of a challenge." His flatmate thought it was a great idea and offered to help him. David usually spent his Saturdays running errands and meeting friends. This gave him many chances to speak English. First, he went to the bakery and ordered bread. He asked, "Is this wholemeal bread freshly baked today?" Later, he needed directions to a bookshop. At first, he got his words mixed up, but he pushed through and said, "Excuse me, I'm trying to find my way to the book nook. Is it down the street, or do I need to turn right?" He even tried small talk at the supermarket. When the line was long, he said to the cashier, "It's quite busy today, isn't it?" The biggest challenge came Saturday evening. He went out with a mixed group of friends, some native English speakers and some other international students. The conversation was fast, and sometimes he felt left out. But David remembered his challenge. He decided to say at least one sentence every few minutes. He used phrases like, "Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that." He even tried telling a short, simple joke. It wasn't perfect, but a few people laughed, and that felt like a small victory. By Sunday evening, David was tired but proud. He had made mistakes, stumbled over words, and sometimes felt awkward. But he kept talking. He realized that real English conversation is not about being perfect. It's about trying, making mistakes, and learning. By the end of the weekend, he had more confidence and new ways to express himself. His English immersion weekend became a memorable and important step in his learning journey. Maria's story: practicing English at a farmer's market. Now, let's look at Maria, a lively artist from Mexico. She had recently moved to a small town in rural England. Maria loved exploring new places and connecting with local culture. Every Sunday, the town had a charming farmer's market. Maria wanted to buy fresh food and practice her English with the sellers. But she felt a little nervous. She worried about understanding the local accents and asking questions correctly. She didn't want to look silly if she misunderstood something. On her first visit, Maria went to a stand selling fresh berries. She pointed at a basket and asked, "How much is this?" The farmer, an older man with a strong local accent, replied quickly. Maria caught only part of it. 2 pounds. She wasn't sure about the rest. So she bravely said, "Sorry, can you say that again a bit slower, please?" The farmer smiled and repeated slowly, "Oh, that's £2.50 for the punnet, love."
Maria repeated, "Ah, £2.50. Ah."
She practiced saying it until she felt confident. Next, she saw some handmade soap. She asked, "Are these soaps homemade? And what smell is this one?" The farmer explained kindly, and Maria learned new words for scents and handmade products. Through small, careful steps, Maria realized that even nervous moments can become great opportunities to practice English. Asking for clarification, repeating words, and listening carefully helped her feel more confident in real conversations. Maria loved visiting the farmer's market every weekend. She made it her special English practice time. Each trip, she tried to learn new words and phrases while shopping. She learned to ask about vegetables. "Is this locally grown?" She learned new words for things she bought: a bunch of flowers, a loaf of bread, and even how to ask, "Do you take card?" when paying. One day, Maria saw a beautiful handmade wool scarf. She really liked it, but thought it was a little expensive. She remembered hearing people ask about prices and decided to try a more advanced phrase. Taking a deep breath, she asked the seller, "Is there a little bit of room for negotiation on this?" The seller smiled and said, "Well, for you, my dear, I can take £1 off." Maria was thrilled. She had not only bought a lovely scarf, but also successfully used English in a real situation. Over time, Maria realized something important. Real-life situations make learning English natural and fun. Visiting the market wasn't just about buying food anymore. It was about having conversations, practicing new phrases, and feeling proud of small successes. Talking about feelings and opinions. Beyond describing routines, another important part of conversation is expressing feelings and opinions. This is where your English becomes personal and real. Think about how you feel during your day. You might say, "I'm feeling a bit tired today." "I'm really happy that it's Friday." "I'm stressed about a deadline." "I feel relaxed after a good workout." You can also explain why you feel that way. "I'm feeling tired because I didn't get enough sleep last night." "I'm happy because I finished a big project at work." Talking about likes and dislikes. Sharing what you enjoy or don't enjoy is very common in conversation. You can use phrases like, I love my morning coffee. It helps me start the day." I enjoy cooking at home." I prefer walking to taking the bus." I don't like I don't like doing chores on weekends. I can't stand, I can't stand heavy traffic. I'm not a fan of, I'm not a fan of eating fast food. These phrases help you voice your personal tastes naturally, talking about challenges and coping. It's also useful to talk about challenges in daily life. For example, my biggest challenge today was dealing with a difficult customer. I'm trying to manage my time better, so I don't feel rushed in mornings. You can also share how you cope. I usually take a break and listen to music when I feel overwhelmed. I try to break big tasks into smaller steps to make them easier. Talking about feelings, opinions, likes, dislikes, and challenges gives your English more depth. It shows others not only what you do, but how you feel and think, making your conversations more natural and personal. Talking about feelings and opinions is an important part of real English conversation. It lets you share more than just facts. You can talk about how you feel during your day, what you like or dislike, or what you think about news, events, or everyday situations. For example, you might say, I think the new park downtown is a great idea. I don't agree with the decision to raise public transport fares. In my opinion, the city should plant more trees. Some useful phrases for giving opinions politely are, I think, I believe that, in my opinion, I don't think. Ben's story, learning to talk about feelings. Ben, a student from Vietnam, was studying English in Canada. He could understand a lot of English, but he rarely shared his true feelings. Most of the time, he would just say, I'm fine. One cold and rainy Monday, his English teacher asked the class, how is everyone feeling today and why? Most students gave short answers. When it was Ben's turn, he paused. The teacher smiled warmly, encouraging him. Ben took a deep breath and said, I am feeling a bit grumpy today and also a bit homesick because the weather is so gray and cold. It reminds me of sad days back home. Also, I missed my bus, so I had to walk in the rain and my feet are freezing. He used the word grumpy, a word he had learned but never spoken before. The class laughed gently, and the teacher nodded kindly. Suddenly, other students started sharing their own feelings. Some were grumpy or homesick too. A real conversation began. Ben felt relieved. He realized that sharing true feelings, even small negative ones, made him more human and helped him connect with others. From that day on, Ben tried to use more feeling words. He would say things like, I'm thrilled because I got a good grade. I'm frustrated with my broken computer. I feel content after a good meal. He learned that talking about feelings builds connections and makes conversations more meaningful. Maya's story, sharing frustrations politely. Maya, a young professional from India, worked in London. She was generally positive, but there was something that really bothered her: noisy neighbors. Her flat was next to a construction site. Every morning, drilling and hammering started very early. She hadn't told her colleagues or friends clearly how much it annoyed her. One day, during a coffee break, a colleague asked, How's your new flat, Maya? Settling in. Maya decided to speak honestly, but politely. She said, It's great, thank you. But I have to say, the construction next door is driving me a bit crazy. The noise starts at 7 a.m. sharp, and it's quite disruptive. I'm finding it really hard to get a good night's sleep. By saying her feelings clearly and politely, Maya was able to express herself without being rude. She practiced using English to describe real-life problems, which helped her feel understood. Key lessons. Share your feelings. Using simple words like happy, tired, grumpy, stressed, or content is a great start. Explain why you feel that way. This gives context and makes your conversation more interesting. Example, I'm tired because I didn't sleep well last night. Give opinions politely. Use phrases like I think, I believe, in my opinion, or I don't think. Use real-life situations. Talking about news, events, or daily problems helps you practice natural English. Be honest and clear. Even small negative feelings are okay to share. They help others understand you better. By practicing these steps, you can express yourself more naturally in English and connect with people in real conversations. Maya learned that using specific phrases helps people understand your feelings better. She used words like driving me crazy and disruptive, which she had heard native speakers use. Her colleague immediately understood her. Oh, I know what you mean, he said. Construction noise is the worst. You must be tired. They talked for a few minutes about ways to deal with the noise, like using earplugs. Maya felt much better after sharing her frustration. It wasn't about complaining. It was about sharing a common daily problem. She realized that by describing her feelings clearly and explaining how a situation affected her, she could connect with people more easily. She could also get helpful advice. This taught her an important lesson. Sharing opinions and feelings, even negative ones, is important for building friendships and trust. Asking questions and keeping a conversation going. In any conversation about daily life, it's not just about telling your own story. It's also about engaging with others. Asking questions and responding naturally is very important. For example, if someone says, I had a busy morning at work, you can follow up with simple questions. Oh, really? What kept you busy? Was it a good day? If they talk about a weekend activity, you could ask, sounds fun. Who did you go with? What was your favorite part? Some useful phrases to show you are listening are, oh, really? Sounds interesting. Tell me more about that. How was that? You can also ask general questions to keep the conversation flowing. What have you been doing lately? How's everything going with you? If you want to ask about plans, you could say, any exciting plans for the weekend? What are you doing later today? Giving fuller answers. It's important not to give just one-word answers. For example, if someone asks, how was your day? Instead of just saying good, you could say, it was pretty good. Actually, I managed to finish that big report I was working on, so I'm feeling relieved. This way, you give more information and encourage the other person to ask more questions. Ending a conversation politely. Knowing how to end a conversation politely is also a useful skill. You could say, oh, well, it was great catching up. I should probably get going now, but it was lovely talking to you. I need to leave now, but let's meet again soon. These phrases show respect and leave the conversation on a positive note. Key lessons. Use specific words to describe feelings. Ask questions to show interest and keep the conversation flowing. Give a little more than a one-word answer to encourage dialogue. End conversations politely to maintain good relationships. By practicing these steps, you can connect with people more naturally in English and make daily conversations enjoyable and meaningful. These polite phrases show that you are about to leave a conversation, but that you still value the talk. They are useful because they leave a positive impression and keep the relationship friendly. Let me tell you a story about Ming, a student from China. He was very good at answering direct questions, but he had trouble with open questions. For example, if someone asked, so, what do you usually do in your free time? His mind would go blank. There were too many choices, and he felt pressure to give a perfect, interesting answer. His language exchange partner, Sarah, noticed this. She was kind and patient. Sarah suggested that instead of trying to answer fully and perfectly right away, Ming could pick one simple thing to say and then add a short follow-up sentence or question. So when Sarah asked him, "Any plans for the weekend?" he simply said, "Yes, I think I will visit a museum." Then he quickly added a question back to Sarah. "Do you like museums?" This made it less stressful for him. Sarah would then share her own museum experiences. Ming listened carefully and picked up new words he could use next time. He also learned phrases like, "Oh, that sounds interesting. What kind of museum was it? Really?
Tell me more about that."
This back and forth made the conversation feel like a game of tennis, where both players keep the ball in the air. He realized that good conversations aren't just about how much you say, but about encouraging the other person to talk, making the conversation shared and enjoyable. Learning English is a long journey. Learning to speak English easily, confidently, and naturally is not a fast process. It's like a long race or a beautiful, changing adventure. Some days will feel great. Words will come out easily and conversations will flow. Other days will feel slow. You might stumble, forget words, or wonder if you are improving. This is completely normal. It happens to everyone learning deeply. The key to long-term success is patience, consistency, and remembering your deeper reason for learning. Think of your English journey like a majestic old tree. It doesn't grow tall and strong overnight. It grows slowly and steadily, day by day, through sunshine and rain, strong winds and quiet moments. Every small thing you do, every conversation, every new word, every mistake you learn from is like a tiny root or a new leaf. These small efforts build your fluency and connect back to your why. Remembering your why. On hard days, when frustration whispers in your ear, pause and think about why you started learning English. Ask yourself, is it to travel the world and meet people from different cultures? Is it to do better in your job or work on international projects? Is it to enjoy movies and books without reading subtitles or dictionaries? Or is it simply for the joy and satisfaction of learning a new skill? Hold that picture clearly in your mind. When you remember your reason, even small steps forward feel meaningful. Let your why guide you. Let it be your anchor and your strong reason to keep going. It is the fuel that will push you forward when the path feels steep or difficult. Celebrate your wins. It is important to celebrate both small and big successes. Small wins could be having a short conversation entirely in English or remembering a new phrase. Big wins might be talking for 15 minutes completely in English without stopping, successfully handling a tricky situation with a native speaker, giving a presentation in English at work. These are real achievements. Don't let them pass by without noticing. Give yourself credit. Tell a supportive friend or family member about your success. These moments are proof of how far you've come and build lasting confidence. Embrace the tough middle. Every learning journey has a tough middle. This is the time between being a beginner and becoming very skilled. It can feel frustrating. You may feel like you aren't improving fast enough. But remember, even when it feels slow, your brain is still working. It is learning deeply, connecting ideas, and storing new knowledge. During these times, just keep showing up, practicing, and listening. Even tiny steps count. Your commitment, courage, and steady effort are the real engines of success. Focus on connection, not perfection. Speaking English isn't just about perfect grammar. It is about connecting with people, communicating your ideas, and being brave enough to use your voice. Every time you speak, you are building bridges between cultures, sharing your thoughts, and expressing your unique self. Be brave, not perfect. Remember this main idea. Be brave, not perfect. Let go of your fear of mistakes. Every error is a teacher, a step forward towards speaking confidently. Focus on keeping the conversation flowing. Get your message out, even if sentences are not perfect. Train your brain to think in English instead of translating from your language. Become a phrase collector, learning natural groups of words and using them actively. Practice shadowing to copy native speakers' rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation. Speak actively. Talk to yourself. Record your voice. Summarize what you hear and repeat. Take every opportunity to speak, big or small. You have already come far. You have already come a long way. You understand English. You can read it. You can listen and catch new words. And with patience, consistent practice, and bravery, your ability to speak naturally and confidently will continue to grow. Speaking about your daily life in English is not just a skill, it is a life-changing journey. It gives you confidence, connects you to the world, and opens doors to new people, ideas, and opportunities. You have learned a lot today. You may feel ready to write English well, and now it is time to speak English with confidence. Writing is important, but speaking is where your words truly come alive. Speaking allows you to connect with people, share your ideas, and make your English real. It lets others hear your thoughts, your personality, and your curiosity. Learning to speak English is like going on a long, exciting journey. On some days, you will feel very motivated. Words will flow from your mouth easily, and conversations will feel natural. These are the good days. On other days, you will feel slow. You may hesitate, stumble over words, or forget vocabulary. These are the hard days, and they are completely normal. Every learner, even the most fluent speakers, has days like this. The key is to keep going, even when it is hard. Every step you take, every word you say, every sentence you try, matters. Even if your sentence is not perfect, it is still a step forward. Every attempt builds your confidence, your fluency, and your ability to express yourself. When you speak, you are learning actively. You are not just reading or listening. You are using your brain, your memory, and your creativity. You are practicing how to think in English, which is the most important skill for becoming fluent. When you speak English, you are also opening doors. You are opening doors to new friendships, new opportunities, and new experiences. You can connect with people from all over the world. You can share your ideas at work or school. You can explore books, movies, and music without feeling lost. Every time you try to speak, you are investing in your future. You are giving yourself the gift of communication, confidence, and independence. I want to thank you deeply for spending this time with me on Super English Talks. This episode has been long and detailed because I wanted to give you real tools, stories, and inspiration to help you improve your English. I hope you feel courage to speak, even if you make mistakes, inspiration to keep learning every day, practical strategies to use English in daily life. It is also important to celebrate your achievements, both big and small. Maybe today you tried a new phrase in English. Maybe you asked a question in a conversation. Maybe you told a short story to someone. Maybe you spent 10 minutes thinking in English instead of translating from your own language. These are small wins, but they are powerful. And don't forget the bigger milestones. Perhaps you spoke English for the first time for 15 minutes, without stopping. Perhaps you had a conversation with a native speaker and were understood. Perhaps you explained your idea in a meeting or bought something at a market using English without help. These are huge steps. They show that you are progressing and that your practice is working. Celebrate these moments. Give yourself credit. Share your success with a friend or family member who supports you. These moments build lasting confidence. At the same time, you will face the tough middle part of learning. This is the time between being a beginner and feeling very confident. You may feel frustrated that you are not improving as fast as you want. You may stumble over words or forget phrases. This is normal. Even when you feel stuck, your brain is learning deeply. It is connecting words, phrases, and ideas. Every small effort you make, even when it feels like nothing is happening, is helping you grow. Patience and persistence are your best friends here. Remember, speaking English is not about perfection. It is not about flawless grammar, perfect pronunciation, or never making mistakes. Real speaking is about communication. It is about connecting with people. It is about expressing yourself and sharing your thoughts. Making mistakes is part of the process. Each mistake teaches you something and makes you stronger. Each conversation is a step forward. To improve your speaking, focus on a few key things. Think in English, not in your language. Try to skip translation. See the idea first, then find the words in English. Learn natural phrases, not just single words. Words in groups like, I'm feeling a bit tired today, or can you help me with this, are easier to remember and use. Practice speaking actively. Talk to yourself. Record your voice, and summarize what you read or hear in English. Shadow native speakers to copy their rhythm and tone. Take every opportunity to speak. Big or small, each chance matters. Practice ordering food, asking directions, chatting with classmates, or joining online groups. Also, remember your why. Why are you learning English? Is it to travel and meet people from different cultures? Is it to do better at work or school? Is it to enjoy books, movies, and TV shows without translating? Or is it simply for the joy of learning a new skill? Keep your why in your mind. It is your anchor and your fuel. When learning feels hard, remembering your reason will help you push forward. Speaking English is also about connection. It's about sharing your thoughts, feelings, and opinions. Even talking about simple daily life shows your personality. Share your happiness, stress, excitement, or frustration. Use words like I feel, I think, I enjoy, and I don't like. Sharing how you feel makes conversations more human and relatable. Remember to listen and respond. Good conversations are not only about talking, they are about listening. Ask questions like, oh, really? What happened next? Or, that sounds interesting, tell me more. Show that you are engaged. Encourage the other person to speak too. Conversations become like a game of tennis, where both people take turns sharing and responding. Lastly, know how to end conversations politely. Say things like, it was great talking to you, or I should go now, but let's meet again soon. This shows respect and keeps the connection positive. Learning English is a long, beautiful journey. It will have highs and lows, moments of frustration and moments of joy. Think of it like a tree growing tall. Every tiny root and leaf is a small effort, and over time, the tree becomes strong and majestic. Every conversation you have, every phrase you learn, every brave mistake you make is helping you grow. So, my dear learners, be brave, not perfect. Focus on speaking, connecting, and expressing yourself. Make mistakes, learn from them, and never stop practicing. Use your voice. Make English your tool to explore, create, and connect with the world. Thank you so much for joining me today on Super English Talks. I hope this long, detailed episode has given you the courage, inspiration, and practical strategies to speak English more confidently. If this episode helped you, here's how you can support the podcast. Like this episode, so more learners like you can find it. Comment below with one new way you will practice this week or a small success you recently had. I love reading your comments. They inspire future episodes. Subscribe to Super English Talks to get daily tips, lessons, and stories. Your support helps us continue creating content that truly helps learners like you. Always remember, keep listening, keep learning, and most importantly, keep speaking. Your English voice is unique and valuable. The world is waiting to hear it. Every word you speak, every sentence you form, is a bridge to new people, new ideas, and new opportunities. Your journey is long, but every step matters. Be patient, be persistent, be brave. Celebrate your successes, both small and big. Speak every chance you get. Think in English. Collect phrases. Practice daily. And always remember your why. With every conversation, you are not just learning English. You are building confidence, connecting with the world, and creating your future.
Keep going. Keep speaking.
Keep believing in yourself. Happy speaking.